I didn't even introduce everybody because I jumped right into questions because I loved Martin's poem. You have their bio on the back of your program today. They're the real deal. They're really, really smart people. And real quickly, as you introduce yourself, just say if you work someplace, if you used to work someplace, if you wish you didn't work someplace, and then jump right into that answer. I'll remind you the question again, Paula.
That would be helpful.
Yes.
So I'm Paula Falk, and I had the pleasure of working at Senior Friendship Center until my retirement half a year ago or so. Prior to that, I worked in psychiatry, and I love working with caregivers, and I love geriatrics. So that's who I am. Are we going to introduce all the way, or are we going to, you want me to answer that question?
Yeah, just answer that question, then as you get the mic, you can introduce yourself.
So why do people stop doing what they...
Yeah, what's caregiver burnout? What is it?
Oh, in two sentences. That was talked about this morning, and I can underscore, because that's one of my favorite words to use with caregivers, because I think you need to have reminders that you are the important part of this equation. There is no way that you're going to succeed unless you figure out how to take care of yourself. I believe in, I talk about a circle of care. This is a real specific kind of example of what I ask people to do, is to take a look at the circle and you put your loved one right in the center of the circle. And when you start to begin to think about all the things you're doing for that individual and you put that in the center of the circle, I would encourage you to think about who can help you with that. What are those resources? Write them down. Your kids, your friends, people at church, professionals. What are the things that would help you address some of those tasks that your name is assigned to? And when that circle gets really crowded and your name's plastered all over it and nobody else is doing anything, that's when you stopped reading. That's when you sleep all the time because you're exhausted. So begin that process of saying, I really don't want to do this, or I can't do this. This is something beyond my skill set. I don't want to, I can't. And then there are those things that I would tell people, what are you willing to give up? And what are the things you want to hold on to? I'm not suggesting to people that you give it all up, because I think we heard earlier today that we're the only ones that can do this. We're the only ones that can take the best care of the person, that whether it's your parent or your loved one, whoever it may be. So if you begin that task and start adding to it, and it is something you add to. I used to tell people that I worked with, don't sit down at a desk and go, okay, I'm going to do what Paula talked about today. I'm going to write this stuff down. No, you put it somewhere, you begin, and then all of a sudden you go, oh, there's that thing I don't want to do. You write it down. Oh, that's a possibility. And you write that down. You don't have to act on everything, but you need to start and prepare. So that, I don't know if that answers the question, but to avoid caregiver burnout is to begin to realize that you can't do it alone. Right?
Thank you, Paula. Thank you. Okay, this is going to be you, John, so just grab that mic from Paula. And there were a lot of similar questions, so if you don't hear the exact wording that you put on there, it's because I'm just kind of mushing them together. And I'm going to read a few, and then, because a lot of them have to do with legal stuff and financing. But the one that comes to mind is, what estate planning document should someone have in place now in order to address future caregiving and long-term concerns, long-term care concerns?
All right, thank you. My name's John Griffin. I'm a board-certified expert in elder law, according to the Florida Bar. And my practice is 100% dedicated to sort of the senior community, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, trust, wills, but also VA planning, Medicaid planning, long-term care planning, special needs, all of those things. That's what we focus on. And I'd seen another question earlier, so I was just going to say that differentiating ourselves from traditional estate planners we really are adding that element of caregiving. What happens when I get past that point of normal, hey, I want this person to be able to buy a car for me, to, hey, I'm responsible for every aspect of this person's life, and I'm having to worry about how to pay for that care. So that's a big part of what we do. So to answer the question, which is, I was thinking earlier as Dr. Rivera was talking, that fight or flight response. Estate planning in some respects is training or test prep for that, right? One of the ways our bodies reacts is to put our head in the sand. A lot of people, I say we're the second least favorite stop after the dentist, right? Nobody wants to go to the lawyer, and at least at the dentist you get some relief, but when you come to see us, the goal is to do some of that preparation so that when you're in that emergency, you have one less thing to worry about. You can know, I've taken care of this. When the time comes, I'm prepared. And we look at those documents, really those essential documents being a power of attorney. To me, most essential piece in anyone's plan can be a power of attorney, because it's the one area of law where there is no assumption that anyone can do that for you. You can be a spouse or a child, but you have no right to serve as someone's financial decision maker. And absent that, you have to get a guardianship, which, no disrespect to guardianship, but it's a court process. It's long, it's arduous. You have to declare your person incompetent. You have to take them to court, someone you love. That's a very difficult thing. And so a power of attorney can help you solve a lot of those problems. That is the document that's going to allow someone to step in for you, make all these decisions. And one of the important things here in Florida in 2011, we changed our power of attorney statutes, and in some respects made it harder for caregivers and agents to act under these documents. So our power of attorney, and I like to warn people whenever they're in my building, it's almost 20 pages of legalese and fine print, and you hate it, and you're going to yell out my name, and I'll probably hear you from home when you get this packet of paper. But we're trying to create a skeleton key. We need to create a document that grants the caregiver, the person you trust to step in, to do all those things that you could do for yourself when you can't do them. And so, to me, power of attorney most important. Then you want to look at your healthcare deciding, decision makers, healthcare directive, living will, those aspects of your care, so that someone's making those medical decisions. Then we worry about what happens to your money after you're gone, right? I hear it all the time. I don't want to have any money. I want to spend my last dollar. So let's worry about that one last. Wills, trusts, I don't want to say they're unimportant because it's part of what I do, but to me, if you're planning, if you're a caregiver, that power of attorney, that healthcare directive is so much more important because it deals with the person you love, not just the money. And so I would say power of attorney, healthcare, and will are the essential documents, but if your power of attorney is 2 pages long, if your power of attorney was done 15 years ago or even 10 years ago, or maybe recently but not by an elder law attorney, and you've got caregiving situations, you may want to evaluate that and have that redone.
Thank you, John. Dr. Rivera, I've got a couple of, these are medical, this is like putting a quilt together. Thanks, everybody. These are really good questions. So I'm going to throw a couple at you, and then we'll circle back to, because these are all about medications and treatment. What are the best meds or supplements for dementia? I'll come back to that one. Will you speak to the ill effects of medication on those with dementia and clonazepam? Sorry, I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV. After a few years of dementia patients taking memantine and donepezil, can those meds be discontinued without bad effects? I'm going to hand these to you because I haven't. And are there any drugs, over-the-counter prescriptions, consideration to help with relaxation and sleep? And then I'll come back to the rest of those when we circle around, but there's medicine names on those that you'll know. And
Okay.
I watch morning TV sometimes, and I try to hear how they pronounce all those medications. That's what I'm going to name my next dog. Okay. Oh, no, the dog will never come home, he said. You're right. All right, take it away.
Okay. All righty. So are there any drugs over the counter or prescription a consideration to help relax and sleep? So, always a tricky thing, because whenever you give something to make someone sleepy, you can also make them fall. So that is always the trepidation that I have whenever I have to prescribe something or suggest something for somebody who's not sleeping well. So so the prescription medicines are one thing. They're of course strong. Most of them are controlled substances, and to me are the choice of last resort. So there are some things that you can take that are over the counter that can be beneficial. Melatonin is one of them. That I think that is the one that I see, my patients use the most.
Hold your mic up a little closer.
Okay.
There you go.
There are other things that you can take. There's something called L-theanine, which is an amino acid typically found in tea. And it has been shown to have some really nice calming properties, and it does not tend to make people sleepy or drowsy. So that is a good choice. If we're talking about sleeping as opposed to just feeling less stressed out perhaps during the day, like you said, to help relax and sleep, magnesium L-threonate is also something that is beneficial. Apigenin is a flavonoid, and a antioxidant that can many times also help. So my recommendation would be magnesium L-threonate, apigenin, and L-theanine as some things that you can safely use. I wouldn't try them all three at the same time. But the magnesium L-threonate, apparently has many health benefits, helps with creating new connections in the brain, and magnesium by itself is a very calming substance. It can also help with going to the bathroom more regularly, which is also an added benefit. Let's see. After a few years of a dementia patients taking memantine and donepezil, can those medications be discontinued without bad effects? Well, it depends. I think that the majority of the data shows that if you stop these medicines, people will decline. So it is not an unusual conversation that I will have where a family member will come and say, these medicines aren't doing anything. I want to stop them. And my recommendation usually is, let's not. I think that there is a point when the dementia is so advanced that the person perhaps is mostly bedbound and doing very little for themselves. And at that point, yes, I think that it would be okay to do that. But while there is something to protect, I would be cautious about it. And let me give you an example. So I had that conversation with a family member. The family member basically said, well, I want to stop it. And I said, okay. So we'll stop the medicine. And within like 2 weeks, the patient had forgotten how to use utensils, was trying to eat the cloth napkins, and got really agitated. And actually, they had a little elder doggy in the facility, and he tried to choke the dog. So, and those were some decompensation and worsening that nobody would know. But for example, if they're still feeding themselves, if they can still walk, if they can still talk, then it may be worthwhile to keep those medicines on board. Of course, unless there is a reason to decrease them. For example, the donepezil is a medicine that can many times affect people's appetite. And so I tend to never want to stop the medicine. I maybe drop it half dose, to 5 and see if that makes a difference. So there are circumstances in which you may have to do this, but not because just they don't seem to be working. Will you speak to the effects of medications on those with dementia, especially clonazepam? So yes, there are two main classes that I am always looking for. Number one is the anticholinergic drugs, so medications. So when we give our family member donepezil, that medication works by increasing the levels of acetylcholine, and there are medications that are commonly prescribed that block the action of acetylcholine. And for example, medications for incontinence, medications for colds, medications for allergies. So anything that can give you dry mouth and constipation. So those, it should kind of raise a flag that maybe this is a medicine that blocks acetylcholine. And those medications can induce cognitive worsening, agitation, psychosis, falls. So the side effects can be really significant and dramatic. The clonazepam is an example of medications that are called benzodiazepines, and we use them a lot for anxiety and also for sleep. And these medicines have been shown to worsen cognition. So they increase the risk of being diagnosed with dementia, and they can also increase the cognitive decline that the person experiences. However, they are used a lot. You know, they tend to be a little bit safer as compared to like antipsychotic drugs, for example. But they can make you fall, and they can definitely make cognition worse, even though, of course, as it always is, for some people, they can be a godsend. But they're medicines that should be used with caution. And for example, if you need the medicine because the person is having anxiety during the day, I would be compelled to maybe prescribe the L-theanine first and try some of the over-the-counter alternatives before I prescribe the medicine like clonazepam.
Thank you so much. We're going to have some more questions along that same avenue, and we'll circle back. I'm holding them down here.
Yes.
Those are the ones with words I couldn't pronounce. Sue Berger, my friend. How does Sarasota help support seniors in our community? And actually, you know, Sarasota is an age-friendly community. Sarasota was the first age-friendly community, which is a World Health Organization designation in the whole state of Florida. We even beat Miami, ha, ha, ha. And Sue Berger works for, well, I'll let you tell them where you work, but her title is, she is our aging system coordinator. And we're really lucky because that wasn't a title that Sarasota County had forever. And then came Sue, and we're finally getting the attention to older adults and senior issues. So Sue, talk to us about what Sarasota does for older adults.
I was going to say she practically answered, gave the whole answer. What Erin failed to tell you is that in 2015, when we became the first age-friendly community, it was under her leadership as the chair of the Seniors Advisory Council for Sarasota County.
Because I have a big mouth, that's why. I won't take no for an answer.
So I'm Sue Berger. As Erin said, I'm the Aging System Coordinator for Sarasota County Health and Human Services. And we have a really unique setup. We are the only county in Florida that has a county department that is overseen by the Department of Health officer, Mr. Henry. So it's a really unique setup, but it gives us a great collaborative work with our Department of Health and our health promotions and outreach. But the age-friendly initiative, you know, in a nutshell, is basically, it's a continuous quality improvement cycle. We work on a 5-year cycle. We assess community. We then work on those issues and areas, and then we report back. Now, it doesn't mean that we are a community that's perfect, that we do everything perfectly. We're always looking at ways we can improve. But just a few things that we work on through Sarasota County and the Department of Health. First, you know, in addition to being the first age-friendly community, our public health was the first Department of Health in the entire country to be an age-friendly public health unit, which is really, really amazing. We have convened a Brain Health Roundtable, and we also were an initial member of a Healthy Brain Roadmap Strategist program through the Alzheimer's Association. So, and what we did with that was a lot of education for our staff on dementia. Some other key things that we did, well, we developed a healthy brain across the lifespan because an age-friendly community is livable for all ages. So we took it from prenatal right through older age. So we have, and actually one of those booklets is in your bag today. You know, many of our county parks and recreation really pay close attention at how we can make pathways easier for people to get out and do their exercise, whether they're able to walk in wheelchairs. We have a big falls prevention initiative, again, which is a huge part of keeping people at home. Our Dementia Care and Cure Initiative, which Danielle from the Memory Disorder Clinic is here, and she is the chair of that. We actually, every Department of Health employee was trained on the Dementia Care and Cure Initiative. So the whole Department of Health is dementia friendly, and our library systems and their commitment to the Dementia Care and Cure Initiative trained every library. So every library you go to in this county and every employee is trained on that curriculum so that they understand the warning signs and symptoms, they understand the talk tactics and how to engage with people and their caregivers who have dementia or Alzheimer's. So that was a huge undertaking that Danielle spearheaded with us back in October. Our law enforcement, you know, we don't really think a whole lot about that, but we have a crisis intervention team training that is a specialized training, and it's a week-long training, and it's mostly behavioral and mental health, but they get a whole entire day focused on older adults, dementia, Alzheimer's, and what to do when they're interacting with them. And we now have a voluntary not a voluntary resolution, but there is a system now where you can register your loved one with law enforcement, letting them know that if they ever have to approach them when they're in a car or if they have to come to the home, that they have, and again, not just for dementia, but if they have Alzheimer's or dementia, or you have autistic individuals that live with you, or people with mental or behavioral health, they know how to have that safe approach when they approach them. And then, you know, we also strongly encourage everybody that we work with to take advantage of the programs and the opportunities like the All-Stars training or the Essentials. These are very easy, basic online courses that you can take that help you gain some understanding of what's happening to your loved one. And just as a final, we do, you know, after COVID, we realized there was a lot of people at home that couldn't get out to get their COVID vaccine. So from that COVID vaccine program, we now offer an in-home vaccine program through the Department of Health. So not just for COVID, but for pneumonia, for flu shots. So if you have a loved one that can't get out, the Department of Health will come to your home and do the vaccines for you.
And isn't that the beauty of having the age-friendly health system tied directly to the aging services in the county, that they make it possible. So I love that. Thank you, Sue. Okay, Dr. Gabby. Dr. Gabby, I've got a good one. What's the latest research for Alzheimer's studies, especially alternative studies with lifestyle changes like I'm not reading some study or the China study using algae. The HOPE study, is that what it is? Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm not reading the handwriting. Or the China study using algae.
Well, hi, I'm Dr. Gabby Lodeiro, and I'm a clinical psychologist, and I work with Intercoastal Research Clinic as well as the neurology department. And I want to tell the good news that we are developing a memory clinic, and we are hoping to launch that in March or April of this year. So I wanted you to know that. In our research clinic, we actually are a research site for the HOPE clinical trial, and this clinical trial is very different from what we've seen so far in the industry in that it does not involve any medications. So it's non-invasive and there's no medications involved. And you do see that I have a weird mannequin head on my table. So you can stop by over there and you can see that's a sham device or a device that doesn't work. But what it is a device that the patient will take home. It will be sent to your home, and it will function as a neuromodulator. And what that is that stimulation to the brain through your eyes and through your ears. So you wear a headphone and you wear sunglasses 1 hour a day for a whole year. And then we will follow up with you with a very detailed protocol, doing MRI, imaging, as well as psychological assessments to look at any cognitive decline, improvement, as well as the functionality of the patient in terms of the activities of daily living. So the ability for that patient to dress and bathe and take care of themselves and take medications. Now, we do have preliminary results on this. And when we follow the patient 6 months later compared to baseline or when they started the trial, we see less brain atrophy, significant amount of less atrophy or damage or death in the frontal part of the brain as well as the cortex of the brain. We also see an increase in the abilities to perform activities of daily living. So this is a very hopeful, the HOPE study. I think it has a great name to it. And anybody ages 50 to 90 is eligible to come and do a screening. They have to have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or MCI, which is a mild cognitive impairment. So that is one of the studies that we have at this time for the HOPE. And like I said, it's a great, I am with Dr. Rivera, the less medications, the better. So I think this is an excellent alternative for our patients.
Do you know anything about the China study using algae?
I do not.
Do you?
What is the question?
Do you? They were asking about research around the latest research around Alzheimer's. Do you know anything about research being done in China using algae?
Oh, okay. No, I thought it was talking about the.
Because my husband was in the study.
Okay.
And it was only,
Hold on, we'll get you a mic. Give us 1 second. We're adding one more to the panel. Little did she know, right?
The study was international. There were 36 countries along with China that were, oh, it's not working?
Just hold it near your mouth.
Oh, is that better? Yes,
Way better.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so what we learned that it was very hopeful because they had already gotten clinical results in the 36 other countries that teamed up with China. I guess it was in their capital, is it Shanghai? But they stopped it in the middle of COVID. I heard that they ran out of money, or they wanted to use it for other things. But it was too bad because maybe some other countries are taking it up. We'll have to find out.
Some of the things that happened during COVID, and I have some family members that do research, that the research studies that had been going on for years were interrupted by COVID. And when that happens, you have to start from scratch again. And it was very frustrating for a lot of researchers around the world, but that is what happened. Thank you
Yes.
for sharing your knowledge.
Yes,
Appreciate that.
apparently it's been a history in China that they use natural remedies first,
Oh, yes,
especially
yes.
people along the coastlines
Yeah.
that have availability of
They've got a lot of
special
algae.
fish and algae
Yeah.
and different things like that.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I only have 75 more questions to go through, so let's just, right? Oh, gosh. Here's one that's very, and now, since we've heard from every one of you, I'm going to let you say, this is yours, this is yours. How to respond to others, like family and friends, who discount my reality of spouse's memory issues. Is an option to avoid those people. I would say yes, but I'll let somebody else take that one. Someone who's they're denying or discounting the fact that the loved one has memory issues. She has to breathe first.
well,
Hold the mic up.
because some of these questions are, it's just not, the answer is not on page 58. So listen, when you're in the process of getting ready to prepare to care for someone, it is important to include the people that you love, the people that are in your circle. And not all families are the same, and we know that. And there may be family members, if given an opportunity, they may surprise you. They may come forward and be able to help in certain ways, or they may listen differently. But then there are some families that once you've put some effort into that, you may decide that, you know what, I'm going to just communicate with them and let them know what's happening. And it could be a consistent message through an email. I believe in, we all know we're all old enough to know the old telephone deal where you whisper and pass it and it's not the same. So what I encourage people to do is really put together information about the status of what's happening with your loved one, and you send it to everybody that is involved in your circle of care, so everybody gets the same message. It's not that it's diluted in any way. It's not special for this one to hear it a different way. No, it's one message that you share. And I think it does go back to those opportunities, looking at people that are in your life and not assuming that they don't want to be part of what's going on with you. And again, it does mean that you put some effort into it. The other thing that I tell people, or that I've told people through the years, is that you listen to the people who love you. Okay, you still get to make the decisions, but the other part of that is you want to, and I will reference this and say, I think it's important to be part of a support network that not necessarily is your children, in the sense that sometimes it's just nice to talk to the kids. And when you get the phone call and it's like, oh, mom's calling, she's gonna just complain about dad. I just don't really want to talk with her. I wonder if that happens. It does.
You know, it's funny, as you're answering, I'm looking at one of these questions. Okay, that's that one. Because this one was, my adult children have their own busy lives, so why should I bother them with what's happening with their dad? You answered that. Thank you, Paula.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Go on, you know that.
There were some people that had questions about money and how to pay for things. How much money or benefit, monthly benefit is allowed with Medicaid for assisted living, and which assisted living facilities in Sarasota accept the Medicaid waiver?
I'll take that one.
You go,
Yeah.
John.
So their Medicaid program, for one thing I like to dispel the myth early on, is that the Medicaid program we hear about on the news is the one that we think of for poor people, right? You think Medicaid, unwed mothers, you think of children, you hear it in the news all the time. But the Medicaid program, especially here in Florida, is incredibly generous in some respects for our senior community. And for a lot of folks, even folks who may look at themselves and look at their bank sheets and say it's $1 million or $2 million, the program is actually available to even those individuals sometimes with proper planning and a good power of attorney. So, one thing is you never want to assume you don't qualify for benefits that might be available, because part of what we do in our practice is help people understand and become eligible. Putting things in the right place will make you eligible for that program. It's a little bit like the opposite end of tax planning, right? People go to accountants, they go to lawyers to, avoid paying taxes. This is the opposite end. You've paid your taxes. We help you take advantage of the programs that are available to you. And so when we look at what kind of coverage you might have, I'm going to address nursing home as well. There are certain circumstances where we can get 100% of the nursing home care covered. 100% of the nursing home care covered, sometimes 100% of the ill spouse's income turned back to the well spouse. Because to me, money should not be the decision maker for whether or not your person needs more care than you can provide, right? If they need care in a nursing home, if they need care in an assisted living, or you need some assistance even within home care, the money shouldn't be the sole factor in deciding that. And so with the Medicaid program, we can help avoid some of that burden. Now, as far as what is available, like I said, in a nursing home, which average cost right now is probably between $10,000 and $12,000 a month, sometimes as high as 15 or more, depending on the facilities, there is a potential that all of that can be covered. So I don't want that to keep you up at night. I tell my families, don't let the cost of nursing home care keep you up. It gets a little trickier when we talk about assisted living or home care, because the program that's available for those benefits is not covered 100% like nursing home Medicaid is. The average in an assisted living is going to be around $1,400 a month if you're eligible for Medicaid for that program. And we like to say somewhere between 10 and 15 hours a week of in-home care might be available. Now those numbers can be more. It's a sort of like an HMO is the way I describe it. You have to negotiate for what you get. But those are starting spaces for Medicaid coverage. The problem with those programs are there's a wait list. And so you want to be reaching out to the Area Agency on Aging as early as possible to get yourself or your loved one on that list. Because unlike nursing home, if you go in tomorrow, you theoretically could get Medicaid the next day. But on the either assisted living or home-based programs, you have to wait till a spot's open for you. And that spot is not necessarily based just on time, it's based on need. So some people may get it in 2 months, some people may get it in 2 years based on the need that they can establish. So, that is part of what we help people understand and participate in that process so we can try to get you benefits as quickly as possible and take care of the event. But roughly $1,400 a month and about 10 to 12, sometimes more, hours of home care is available.
That's great, John. So when you mentioned the Area Agency on Aging for Southwest Florida, there's a phone number that you can access. So pick up a Senior Friendship Center's brochure at one of our tables back there, and you'll see it's called the Elder Helpline. And the Elder Helpline is I want to say it's 877 or 866 number. It's a toll-free number. Not that anybody pays long distance anymore.
Aaron, if I
Kind
could
of
just add
dating myself.
Sorry. Just add one thing to that. If you call the Area Agency on Aging, one of the tips I'm going to give is don't talk about your loved one in the way you normally do. Because it is natural, and we hear this all the time. Well, I got way down on the list because when I looked at this person, my loved one, I said, well, sure, they can do this or they can do that. And so the question I like to ask is, if you are gone for 3 days, what would that person's life look like? And you want to describe that person as if you weren't there, because the help you're getting is for when you're not there. And if your loved one can't bathe, dress, toilet, would eat rotten eggs, would eat whatever, you don't want to describe them at the way you like to see them still.
Be honest.
Be honest and
Brutally honest.
describe them on their worst day, at their worst times, not when you're standing there helping them shower and you say, well, they can shower. They don't know shampoo or hot water or conditioner because I'm standing there saying shampoo, conditioner, hot water, food, throw away the old milk, take this medicine. You have to look at them when you're not there, not how they are when you are there.
That's great advice, Sue. Add to that.
I just wanted, you said the key thing, be honest, and again, in empowering yourself. Whenever somebody calls me and asks for that help with it,
It's
I
my
go to the
mother-in-law.
website. I can.
They're calling you right
They're calling
now.
me right now. Go to the
Pick up that
website
phone.
and you can download the assessment yourself. It's public. It's all public record. You can download the telephone screening, and I download them. I email them to people. I mail them to people. I say take the assessment, the screening assessment, and go through it and answer the questions first, so that when you make that phone call, you have everything. You have everything right there to answer the question.
That's great advice. Now, Sue's other hat is she is a board member for the Area Agency on Aging of Southwest Florida. Thank God we have Sue on that
Secret's
board. Yes, the secret's out. And somebody wanted us to mention Shine also. This is a public service announcement from somebody said, don't forget to mention Shine. Health cares and serving health insurance needs of elders. Thank you. Shine is much easier. And they do Medicare counseling. So they are really smart. They're unbiased, neutral, and they will give you some great advice. So thank you for that. How do we address the loss of intimacy? That's a good one.
So of course, I'm going to take the sex question.
Good for you.
Yes.
She's our own Dr. Ruth.
So this is a very sensitive topic, and it can go both ways. So for the caregiver, it could be that lack of intimacy, that lack of attention, that lack of touch, and it has to do with a lot of dynamics that change when your role changes. So you're not just the spouse anymore, you're the caregiver. So the family dynamics are going to be a little more complex. Early in the diagnosis, people with Alzheimer's or any type of dementia may go through an adjustment period, even depression, anxiety, fear, and they might not be in the mood for that. And you have to be respectful of that, but also know your own needs. It is always important to talk to your healthcare provider, also to your mental health provider. But the other part that I want to talk about is the hypersexuality, because a lot of my caregivers come and they say,
That's
"It's
this
right there."
one. Yep.
All right.
You're so smart.
So the first thing that I want you to know is that it is part of the disease. They're not doing it on purpose. They're not doing it intentionally. They're not trying to shock you. They're not trying to, to be rude to you, exactly. You might hear comments, unwanted advances. You might walk into them masturbating. They might expose themselves to you. And it has to do with how you respond to it. If you go in there and somebody's exposing or saying things to you or trying to touch you, and you go like, "Oh my God, don't touch it," and you yell, and you will escalate the situation. So my motto is do not react, respond. Understand that this is the disease. This is not your loved one. It has to do with that part of the brain that is right behind your eyes that tell you, I'm driving and I have road rage, but my brain is, "Gabby, you should not maybe say that. You shouldn't swear at that driver. You shouldn't, run them over with your car." Hopefully, right? So
That's a good idea.
right? And so part of the brain, that part of the brain that helps you with your impulsivity and your inhibition, it's damaged, it's gone, and it's going to get progressively worse. So just don't take it personal, but set boundaries. If you have caregivers in your home that are helping you, what I call care partners, you have a professional aide that comes, make sure that they wear a professional attire that is not revealing, that they don't call your loved one, "Hey honey, hey sweetie." You can't do that. That makes for fuzzy boundaries. So they can say Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. And when you have, when you're involved in activities that require touch, for example, helping somebody bathe or dress, those could be triggers. The fact that a person was diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's doesn't mean that they don't have a sexual desire, right? Or they have wants and needs. So that might not go away, but just be mindful. Be mindful also of your body posture, of your position. This is not gonna look good, but if I am a caregiver and I have maybe a male in front of me.
It looks better if you do it than I do it.
Right,
so.
I'll do it. So you go like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm gonna find your underwear." You don't want to do that, right? Because that bending and that posture can be, a visual cue that is exciting for them. So use distraction. Distraction works. Kind of ignore their comment. Don't ignore them, but ignore their comment. Use some space. Redirect them. "Hey, it's time to go for a walk, or it's time to go get our puzzle done." So distraction works wonders. Is your friend. Don't react. Respond. This is difficult. This is complex. This is challenging, and it's okay to be upset, just don't do it in front of them. So that will be my advice.
Don't react.
Respond. Yes.
That's very good. This is a good one. I've heard about a number of day programs for persons living with dementia. How do you know when it's the right time to consider using one? What are the options out there?
I'm grabbing the mic.
Grab that mic.
Yeah. So day programs are fabulous. period. Oftentimes I would hear people respond when that's suggested, and they'll say, oh, my loved one's not ready for that. And I love when I hear that because I don't like it. I take it on and I challenge people's thinking. Day programs are engaging. They are safe places for individuals who are compromised to be able to be successful. They can have their own space. You know, we all want our own space, our own things. We live our lives enjoying activities and engagement, and a day program provides that. Listen, I'm biased because I was part of Senior Friendship Center for 24 and a half years, and the day program was part of my life. The joy of watching someone walk in and begin to be involved with the staff that are there. It's comprehensive, so they have nursing staff, they have program staff, activity staff, so there's always things going on. And the other part of that equation is that if you're the caregiver, you get to walk out the door and go home. I tell people, they go, I don't know what to do now. I said, well, you got to learn that too. I'm newly retired. I'm learning what it's like to not have somewhere to go. When you're constantly caring for someone, you have to learn that again. So you can go out to lunch with a girlfriend or friend. You can go to the movies. You can go home and take a nap. It is a wonderful concept.
You can read those books that you've been putting on.
If you decide to do that, or twiddle your thumbs. Listen, it gives you back that opportunity. The other thing that it really does is it allows your loved one to be cared for by someone else. So when I hear people go, well, I can't even go to the bathroom by myself. Okay, well, we've got a problem here because you've created this need for someone to follow you around the house. Consider it. The other part of the day program and being successful of introducing, because this is a question they go, I coached people. I would tell people, this is what I want you to do. I want you to call the program. I want you to ask them, how do I get my loved one here? Let them answer the question. I can give you the answer. I would say, what happens is people start to try to convince somebody to do something when you, in fact, are not really sure what they do there anyway. So why would you do that? You need to turn it over to the professionals, speak to them, allow them to work their magic, because they're skillful people that love taking care of individuals that are compromised.
I love that too. One of the things I've observed in my almost 20 years of being here is that caregivers see their loved one for all the deficits, all the things that they don't do anymore. They used to do this, they used to be good at that, they used to like that. The people in the day program don't know any of that stuff. And so they really get to see their loved one through fresh new eyes. Did you know that your dad could paint, or did you know your mom sings, or do you know your husband? It's wonderful. It really is great. Thank you. Paula, Gabby, did you want to add to that? Yes. She was jumping.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about one of my caregivers, because what Paula said, one of my caregivers came to me. She was very overwhelmed. She was extremely anxious. She had lost weight, she lost her job, and she's what we call the sandwich generation. So she's taking care of mom and dad who have Alzheimer's, and also taking care of children in the home. So it was a lot on her, and she took a long time to take that help. Kind of thinking about early on that this is a progressive disease, unfortunately, and it will get more challenging. So be open to the help when it's extended to you with adult day centers, and also if you have the means to have in-home help. And if you don't feel comfortable with somebody helping with your loved one at the beginning, have them help with things around the house. Let them do your laundry, or do light housekeeping, or ask your friends for a meal train. These things that, you can still be the captain of the ship with, your loved one for a while, but make sure that you get that help as soon as possible. And my caregiver did say to me, "Oh, my mom will never go to a place like that." So she completely discarded it without even trying. And what I said was like, just entertain me for a minute here. The woman that you knew would have never gone to a place like that. But look at your mom now, and this might be one of the best things that has happened to her. And it was. And that also provided a lot of respite for my caregiver. So I wanted to just share that.
That's a great perspective, that is. All right, I got two different things here, and I think, John, this might touch on you. The last one really, how to get around HIPAA regs on portals and websites with hospitals and doctors' offices. And then the other part of this, the approaches of, well, I'll get to that one in a second, but improving the hospital response to dementia patients. But the HIPAA question is the one I wanted to ask you.
So my legal obligations are maybe different than other people on this stage, and I cannot tell you to get around legal regulations, right? I'm bound by the Florida Bar.
Just put a bag over your head and talk.
Yeah,
We won't know it's you.
I'm bound by the Florida Bar on camera not to answer
there's the camera.
that question. But when it comes to reality, we know reality and the law don't always match up. And so the truth is, what I tell my clients when they're going to go onto Social Security or other things that do require that powers of attorney may not be accepted, you do it with the individual with whom you are working, right? So if my husband is there and he's clicking the buttons and he's going through those obstacles, that's one way to get around it, right? Is they do it, not you. That's legally a correct answer. The other side of that would be that, especially with HIPAA, even without a healthcare surrogate, the law makes assumptions on, so the document, an advance directive for healthcare that represents this person grants to me this specific authorities. The law makes assumptions about who can make medical decisions for you when you can't make them for yourself. And so a lot of times that is the caregiver, it is the spouse, it is the child. So the law protects you in many respects and grants you authority broader than, especially with healthcare, broader than you might otherwise realize. So ideally you'd have that advance directive for healthcare so that you can say, I've got the paper and I'm doing this legally. But if you don't, know that the law does grant you authorities beyond.
They still won't let you go to the portal of your spouse. I have all those documents.
Yeah.
I cannot access his records.
There's no legal right, I would argue, to restrict your access to medical information if you are the legally authorized person to do that. So that may involve a strongly worded letter from someone in the law profession that says, I am legally authorized to get this information. You are withholding this information from me, and provide it or pay my lawyer, So I would say if you legally can't get past those burdens, then you've got it. Now, where we do get tricky sometimes is, and I tell people, keep the cell phones, keep the emails of the people you're caring for, because nowadays, I sent that password login to that email, or I sent that password to that cell phone. When they die, when they're incompetent, don't be quick to shut those things down, because it may restrict your access to those. And it's, whether you're incompetent or not, it's impossible sometimes to get around those password loops that they're going to put you in. So
Wow.
unfortunately, it may require the law.
That's great advice. Yeah, that is great advice. This is a really interesting one. Well, actually, I've got two here. Can low sodium levels promote dementia? It's hard to raise sodium levels. Not if you're me. Grab that salt shaker. No, can low sodium levels promote dementia? Low sodium?
So low sodium levels, first of all, that can be a common side effect of antidepressant medications and most psychiatric drugs.
Okay.
And even though I am not familiar with it particularly precipitating dementia, but it can create what is called delirium.
Which masks as
So
Dementia.
delirium is like an acute change in mental status. Like the dementia is the pervading day-to-day functioning of the person, and then delirium is an acute departure from that. And so whenever we evaluate for delirium, which is a medical emergency, to check the electrolytes is definitely one of them. And we must be very, very careful because virtually every single psychiatric drug can lower sodium levels, what we call hyponatremia.
Great. Thanks, that's very helpful. Here's one that I thought was interesting. What's your thought about the use of magic mushrooms as a way to mitigate trauma?
You mean for the doctor?
Thought it was very interesting. And you may not have a real good answer for that one, I guess, but
So, I think that there is more and more evidence for the therapeutic benefits of psychedelics. I know that, Johns Hopkins, Harvard, they have now, departments where the whole focus is this.
yes.
So, yeah, I think it's something that maybe not at the moment. We're still trying to elucidate when is the best time to use them. But I know that a lot of the data is coming out for people that have like treatment-resistant, depression and other issues, and they can definitely be beneficial in some cases.
Thank you. We have just a few more minutes, and like I said, there were about 75, and I really wasn't joking, there were about 75 questions. But I've tried to kind of sort them here. There are a couple that jump out at me, and one is, what do you do if the person you're caring for is in complete denial about their diagnosis? And a follow-up, how can I get my loved one to agree to accept help and care? I have a stubborn husband. What if they're in complete denial?
Yes, we can all answer. So this is a very typical question from caregivers, and there's a few things that I can advise. So the first thing is what I mentioned before. If you would like to bring some help into the home, but your husband or your wife, your loved one is resistant to that, you can say, hey, look, I have Miss Mary today coming in to help me. So you are introducing that help into the home, not for them, but for you. And then usually there is a transition where they're like, oh, there's another person to socialize with. This person might do a puzzle with me, or this person might take the loved one for a walk or to take the dogs out. So it could be a transition from introducing the person as a help to you, and it's less threatening that way, and than to the actual person that needs the care. So that will be one of my pieces of advice. And the other thing is that as dementia progresses, the hallmark of it is poor insight and poor judgment. They don't recognize their deficits, and that's why it's so difficult sometimes to get them to take the medications or to turn over the car key. That's a big one. And so, this is very complex and very difficult. One of the things that I have seen working with, for example, refusal to take medications is to have, I hate using this word, but a phony letter from your doctor. So you will find a doctor that your loved one wants to impress and they're influential on them, or that they want to please. And this should be a very simple letter that says, dear, my patient so-and-so has to take this medication today for her heart. And then, that can work. Some days it may work, some days it may not work, but something that you can use to help them with the medication refusal. Always stand, sit next to your loved one. Don't go overhead and say, here, take these. It's threatening and it's bossy, and it can be perceived as rude, and they don't have control of their lives. So put yourself in their shoes, how you will perceive that as well. So sitting right next to them, using a phony letter from the loved one, And then also for example, not driving anymore, you can have the help of your physicians. I'm dropping everything. Your physicians or psychiatrists. You don't have to be the bad guy that takes the license away. Actually, it's not your job to do that. You can talk to, and I derailed a little bit, but I think it's all kind of related. If your loved one doesn't want to turn over the key and you notice behaviors that are unsafe, for example, they're confusing the gas and the brake pedal, or they're riding that brake, or they're stopping in the middle of the road for no reason, or you hear a lot of honking when you are, with them in the car. These are signs that you need to talk to your healthcare provider, raise these concerns to them, and they can say, they actually are mandated to report it to the Department of Health. Then the Department of Health will call the DMV or the Department of Motor Vehicles, and then they will call your loved one in for an evaluation. And then they will determine whether or not your loved one is safe to be on the road. You're not the bad guy. It takes the burden away from you. But this is a public safety issue. So I always talk about driving because it's a question that I get a lot from my caregivers.
And it was one of the questions about when to know when it's time, so thank you for that. Okay, we have like a minute, Paula, so talk fast.
One thought that with any of this, with any of these challenges, one of the things that people that are in a marriage, that have good relationships with their children, we believe in being honest and open, and we talk about things. I have a good marriage. I talk to my husband. We may disagree. When you introduce dementia, those conversations need to change. And so if you're going to sit down and say, honey, you can't do this, or you need to do this, or don't you understand, or you want them to declare, I'm demented, you need to change. You need to change. So and you know how you get to do that? And I'm going to promote support groups, because that's how you learn. That's how you become successful and can make those adjustments, because you've got people surrounding you that deal with those issues. So that's as quick as I can do. But
that's very, very helpful. Thank you very much. And you know what? John and the rest of the panel are going to stick around. There are probably a dozen more questions and comments here, and some of them are just hit you in the gut questions. They're going to stick around. I just want to wrap up with a few final words and let you folks have a beautiful day. So don't start getting dressed to leave yet. I see you putting your jacket on. I'm going to tell you a couple of things that might make your day. We're going to have, after the end of this, we're going to have the committee members who planned and put this together come up and have a quick photo taken, because events like this are just not possible without some great community partnerships. So I want to get a round of applause here for the awesome committee of caring collaborators. Thank you. Come on up. Georgianne Nugent down there of Senior Friendship Centers. Danielle Valerie right here of Sarasota Memorial Hospital's Memory Disorder Clinic. Bernice Pelea of Alzheimer's Association. April Moschini, Neuro Challenge Foundation for Parkinson's. Pam Barron Mahoney, Senior Friendship Center's board member. Oh, there she is right there. She snuck up on, leave anybody out. And Maria Vasquez with JFCS. So aren't they phenomenal? Thank you. This was a great day, and it took really smart people to pull it all together. So thank you all very much. And we'll do a photo op right after. Another big thanks to the sponsors for this year's Caregiving Forum. The Community Foundation of Sarasota County, Intercoastal Research Clinic. Thanks, Dr. Gabby, and Senior Friendship Centers. You're very welcome. Thanks to our community informational partners for coming to share their essential resources and spend their Saturday supporting caregivers. We really appreciate your partnerships. And it was great to watch everybody kind of make the rounds and talk to folks and pick up brochures and get some answers to questions. For every question you have, there's an answer. There's somebody out there with an answer. I want to just, once again, thanks to all of our fabulous partners. Mwah, you guys are wonderful. And I just want you all to know you are not alone. We're here for you. We're here for you. And thank you. Declan's leading tours. If you want to take a tour, see one of the nice people back there by the check-in table, and he will take you on a little tour. You probably feel like walking right about now. Thanks for coming, everybody.